first Purge is pretty damn bad. You know, sometimes I go see bad movies that are expected to be bad by a lot of people, and I was like, man, I really didn't like that. And a lot of my friends will be like, well, what were you expecting, Hunter? And just because something is expected to be bad, or just because the previous encounters with this franchise haven't been great, doesn't excuse the fact that this movie is not good. It is not good at all. This film is barely directed by Gerard McMurray. It stars people of little consequence because none of the actors stood out at all to me. The only ones that did stand out are the ones that were really bad. And it also features somehow some really bad technical aspects like special effects and stuff like that, which I'll get into a little bit more. And in an age where so many people just go on the internet and just say, that thing sucks, or The Last Jedi is terrible, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go through and give you some reasons why I did not like the first Purge in just a second. Very terribly named The First Purge is a prequel to the first 3 Purge films, which I thought was a cool idea when I first heard it. You know, the Purge movies aren't great. The first one with Ethan Hawke I think is fine, but the other 2 are not very good. But with going back in time and going back to show like how the whole thing began, I thought it was a cool jumping point because we could have seen the politics behind it, we could have seen how people voted on it, or what was the thinking process behind this. Nah, this movie doesn't do any of that. It just starts off and it's like, hey, here's a quick little montage scene that we have a new president, they're going to do a purge, it starts in 12 hours. The only reason I don't like the first Purge? No. It's just frustrating because we could have had some really cool, like, interesting conversations or interesting scenes of the characters talking about the thought process behind that. Why would you vote for the Purge? Like, what good could this possibly do? But no, we don't get any of that. What this movie instead does is just right off the bat, it's like, hey, Purge is starting in a few hours, and then we just see some of the main characters getting ready for it, which I didn't really like any of the main characters. That's another thing. We have a few protagonists in this film, but one of our main protagonists is a gangster, which I didn't like him at all. I didn't have any kind of like feeling towards him if he dies, which is a huge factor in movies like this where you can kill off characters and you try and have like a shock value type thing to it. There's a huge value behind actually having characters you care about. That's why movies like It Follows and stuff like that I really, really like, because the characters are really, really well thought out and like written well, and I actually care about them. Well, we have a gangster guy who is the most stereotypical gangster I've ever seen in a movie, maybe. He holds his gun sideways, he yells lots of slurs, he is just a terrible person, and he is one of our main characters in this film. You may be sitting there thinking to yourself, well, Hunter, what would a terrible horror film be without its terrible villains? Don't worry, they're here too. We have this druggy guy that runs around with needles on his fist and some sort of a knife and somehow escapes gunfire and stuff like that to chase down one character the whole night who evades him several times, and he randomly finds him throughout the city within different buildings and stuff throughout the night. We have him. We have these 2 just awful characters that are so stereotypical, so been there, seen that a million times, but it's worse than what we've seen because their line delivery, their acting, their actual lines that they're given are just so bad. We have our politician-like character who reminded me of another character that I really didn't like this year, the villain from Rampage. And we also have another character who has, I guess, a redeeming scene towards the end. It's interesting. There is a character in this who, it's that one I was just talking about, who has a redeeming scene, and then later on in the film, we just see like a videotape recording of her dying, and I was like, what the hell? Like, that's so dumb. Have a character that you spend time redeeming and building up her character arc, and then kill her off before she's able to do anything with it. She finally decides, like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to decide to do this. And then she's killed off screen, basically, because we just see, like, a little videotape recording, and there's not even that much attention drawn to it. It's so dumb. It was almost laughable, to be honest. The characters are bad in this. The story's bad. I haven't even talked about how there's a character in this who straight up lies to his sister and does some really awful things, and then she finds out about it and is like, we'll talk about this later, and then they never talk about it again. They never show them, like, have a discussion about it or what his thinking process was. I mean, talk about all that other stuff. But I think the worst part about this movie is actually, like, the special effects and the technical aspects of this movie were extremely bad. Some of the special effects in this movie are on the same level of a YouTube movie. It's this awful CGI blood that you keep seeing throughout the film. It's not just like one scene or something where they couldn't figure out how to get fake blood in there. It's just this CGI blood every time someone gets killed. And it's like really, really like aberrant use of that as well. It's not just someone gets hit and they're like dripping some out. It's like spraying up in the sky. But it didn't look cool. It looked fake as hell. It looked so fake. And it just felt lazy. There's no prosthetics or anything like that used. Indie films that have like half the budget of this are able to use that. Why couldn't they? It just felt lazy. It's not shot well, it's not edited well. The whole production just felt lazy to me. I've talked about everything that I didn't like, but let's talk about some of the stuff I did like. I go on and on about all the stuff I didn't like about this movie, but frankly, I'm just tired of it. I don't really like shooting down at a movie and making fun of it and everything. But I do need to give this movie a score because it is an official review, so I somehow came up with giving this a 3 out of 10. I was going to give it lower, but there are some really funny scenes in this movie that aren't supposed to be funny, so at least it's kind of enjoyable, right? Right? This movie is terrible. But what's not terrible is you guys. Thank you guys so much for all the subscribers and likes and comments and everything I've been getting lately. I really appreciate it. My subs are up a lot faster than I thought they were going to. I thought this was going to be more of a long haul. My goal is to get to 1,000 by the end of this year. We're almost already halfway there. And by the count of my subscribers, I know it's not that many, but I can see now that it's not just my friends, that I have a little bit of a reach. Just thank you guys so much. I appreciate it a lot. Oh my god, I'm so proud of you. You watched all the video. You did it. You made it to the end. And now you can watch me babble more and say more if you go right here and watch one of my old videos, or go over here and subscribe and watch all of my old videos. And even if you wouldn't do that, I really appreciate it if you scroll all the way down past all these other similar videos to mine that aren't as good and leave me a comment and let me know what you think I did. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much.